Ooh, looks fun. Okay, welcome back, everybody, for another show on composing. And I'm going to also do something that's kind of cool. Can't believe I said that. Anyways, there's a new synth pedal I just discovered for guitar called the Boss SY200, and it makes crazy sounds. So I had two or three new songs that I actually came up with. Once again, sorry, I should have been here 2 days ago. 2 days ago? Last time I was on was Friday. Today is Tuesday. Sorry. Just stuff started happening, and Trish had me running around doing stuff at the 2 o'clock time, which is when I like to do this. But anyways, so let's get started here. This is kind of a different way of composing that I think I've used this in the past. In fact, I know I used this in the past. I rented a synthesizer for doing some saxophone parts on a recording that I was making for a Christmas record. A song that I wrote called Merry Christmas Baby. A lot of people have written the same song, but I had my own version of that song. Anyways, I wanted to put some saxophone parts on it. Had a friend of mine come and play some saxophone for what I envisioned it sounding like, but it didn't sound anything like what I wanted. So I guess what I wanted was more of a synthesizer saxophone sound. Wow, say that 3 times really fast. Synthesizer saxophone sound. Uh, anyways, I used that and had I made the sax solos myself using just a synthesizer. It sounded fabulous. Nothing ever really happened with the recording. I think it went out there and whatever. I didn't get any distributorship or anything like that for it as a single, but it's a pretty cool Christmas song, I think. Some people like it. But what I was going to say is after I did the recording, I started noodling around with this machine or playing with it just to see what other sounds were in it. And while I was doing that, I would find certain sounds and go, wow, that's kind of cool. That sounds kind of neat. And then I would play with the sound, and the same way that I compose things on the straight guitar, like just your basic guitar, I started doing with this synthesizer, and it was really, really cool because the stuff I was coming up with was out of my imagination, or I guess really out of my wheelhouse, not stuff that I'd usually come up with on my own with my guitar, because there's some styles of music that are not guitar based. There's a lot of music, especially popular music from the 80s and the 90s and even today, that used a lot of synthesizer. So anyhow, while I was playing with this key, and it was a keyboard unit, and it wasn't a full scale thing, but the number of tones you can get on it. When I rented it, I said to the guys, excuse me, I want to be able to play saxophone on a synthesizer. Do you have something that'll do the job? And they did some searching, and they found this thing that they let me take home. Anyways, so I guess it's kind of specific. When you want to use a synthesizer, you want it to be able to sound like a saxophone, then you need to get the right synthesizer so that it sounds like a saxophone somewhere in it. And so synthesizers have a lot of different tones, which is what I'm going to do with this video. This is all about this this pedal, which I've got in front of me. And what I'm going to do, I'm not a real pedal review kind of guy. I basically play everything straight through an amplifier with my guitar, with no effects, no pedal board, nothing like that, because I believe it's all here. This is my pedal board, are these things. So it's the way you use your fingers. But that being said, this pedal is different than most guitar pedals, because it's basically like the thing that I rented, the keyboard, but they finally, Boss, who's been working on this for about 40 years, going way back, has finally come up with something that can actually work with a guitar without a lot of crazy stuff in between the guitar and the synthesizer. Basically, my guitar is going through this thing, the same as using a cable, but I use a wireless system that just plugs into my guitar, and then the signal travels through magically through the airways like a radio walkie-talkie thing, but for guitars. Anyways, it's going into the synthesizer, and the coolest thing about it is they figured out how to make it sound like it's all single notes. So when you play a chord, the machine or the pedal hears, the SY200 hears the guitar chord, and out comes a synthesized guitar chord, and it doesn't have all that weird glitchy where it's almost like auto tune. It's trying to find the note. It doesn't do that at all. A lot of reviews says that there's no latency. However, what I found on some settings, yeah, there's latency, which means it's a delay. So it doesn't, when you hit the string, it's not immediate. Most settings I found are pretty fast. I wouldn't say they were direct or with no latency. Although a lot of people reviewing this pedal said, yeah, there is no latencies. There's a little bit, but you have to be hearing it. You have to have, if you play blues like me, that's what I enjoy playing the most is blues. And when I played some blues licks, I thought, wait a minute, where's the notes that I'm playing? Because I could play the notes on the guitar without the synthesizer, but when I went through the synthesizer, some of the notes disappeared in my riff. So as a result, that's not a really great thing to be advertising that there's no latency. There is. They haven't perfected it yet. I think Roland and Boss are working together, and they're probably going to get this figured out within probably the next few weeks or months, because apparently this machine, this pedal, you can of course download stuff from the internet into it. So as most people know, a lot of the electronics for music is changing super fast, and it continues. It's been going on for years, probably at least 10 years, but it seems to be really starting to accelerate right now, guitar-wise and effect-wise. Anyways, so what this video is going to be about is I'm going to demo a bunch of the sounds for this SY200 by Boss, and what we're going to see is what I come up with while I'm demoing it. So I got this idea last night because I fired it up for the first time last night to see what it did, and then today I just came in, started getting ready, and I started playing this riff, which I did not have in my mind. I got it from the synthesizer. Oh yeah, and that was one of the points I was going to make when I was talking about the keyboard synthesizer I rented before, 10 years ago or whenever it was. Actually, that's way more than 10 years ago. That's got to be 20 years ago. Anyways, what my point was is that when I was playing it, I started composing without an intention to do so. It's like, oh, okay, what sounds does this make? And the next thing you know, though, I started building stuff on these sounds that were coming out of the synthesizer, and ended up composing. I think I composed 3 different songs just over a weekend of renting the synthesizer. Boom, they just came out of me. And I think 2 of them were instrumentals. And one was just this freaky thing that was like a conversation between a giant and like a very small animal. It was bizarre. It's called Out of My Mind. And yeah, it kind of sounded that way. It was, well, I don't know where that recording ended up. But one of the other recordings I came up with was called Ecstasy. And not because there was this drug that was popular at the time that I came up with this song, and it's called Ecstasy. People still probably do it. It's kind of a love drug. Basically when you take the drug, you fall in love with everything, everybody, everything, and it's kind of different. It's really different. So the feeling I got from that, I was inspirational for doing this song and composing this song. At the end of composing it, I had all this like really ambient kind of stuff before ambience was something that people were focusing on recording. Anyways, so it was really different, and when I listened back to what I recorded, I thought, yeah, Ecstasy is kind of like a good name for this song, because when you listen to those sounds, it made you feel good, or it made me feel good. And my friends that listened to it, they said, that's just wild. And I'm sure other guys had done that with synthesizers as well. I'm just not really familiar with synthesizers. I don't chase for sounds like that to use for recording until now. Well, back then and now. So basically, to get on with my story, sorry it took me 12 minutes just to describe that. Let's get started. So when I sat down today with this unit, I plugged it in, started messing around with it, and I came up with this. So that in itself is a foundation for a song, and all it is this on a regular guitar. And there's no effects. I'm not playing chords. So on the machine, if you go out and buy one of these or rent one of them, run away with that riff if you want. It's kind of cool. What I noticed too is it's like an octaving effect that they got going on here. And the setting, just for your records, is I'll probably, if I got time, later put this into the description. This is setting 19. It's called Rhythm and Bass 8th, and basically I just fired it up, put the, what is this knob? I can't remember what this knob is called, but it's the one with PAD, string, bell, organ, bass. It's the bottom right hand knob, and I've got that set to dual right now, which is like, I imagine two instruments, or a doubling effect, I'm not sure. And the the memory one is 019, Rhythm and Bass 8th. And there's a little knob called a variation knob, and I've been playing around with that. I've got the volume for the instrument off, because I just want to know, like, all the volume is totally down on the guitar. So I just want to know what the synth sounds are like. So I'm just using the volume for the synthesizer. All the other knobs, just left them the way they were. And a crazy thing about this is those variations I found out that they only go up to certain numbers on certain settings. So I think it's 125 memories selections on this unit. So you can go through 125 different main. I'm not really technical with this thing yet. So it's on the little LED screen. It's 019 is what this sound is coming from. What I was going to mention is like I said, the other knob is set to dual. The variation knob, it doesn't really have anything saying what your setting is. So you have to play with it until you can find this sound. So that's the riff that I came up with. It can go anywhere from there, but that's basically how I compose all my songs. It comes out with a riff. And this video is strictly about composing music when you discover a machine like this. So this is brand new. It's like 3 or 4 months old. And so I don't think a lot of guys are familiar with it. But I think a lot of songwriters might find it interesting, because most of the songwriters that I know are guitar players. I don't know many songwriters that write with piano. And so I will go through the now that we know where this is, I'm going to stay on everything else and go through the variation. So, there we go. The variation of this, when you turn the variation knob, it tells you which variation it is. The SEQ sequence, I guess that means. SEQ 13. So when you turn the variation knob on the unit, it instantly changes the LED screen so you can see what variation it is. And it tells you what your E level is, the effect, and your D level. Interesting, I never noticed that before. But this, day number 2, right? So, and I'm slow, very slow at learning new things like this. But I got a funny feeling. Like, I'm trying this out. I got a good feeling that I'm probably going to want it. And we'll see how it goes. I've got it for a week. So I got it for about 4 more days. So far, when I started out yesterday, I was like, there's not much here for me. But when I hit this weird thing, variation 13, and I started composing something, that's a really good sign, because I have other synthesizer keyboards and that doesn't happen for me. So I might be entering a new, I guess, a new room, for lack of a better term, for composing songs rather than just using the guitar. Because I tell you, I don't think I'd ever come up with this. As a riff for a song that I was writing. So I guess in a way this synthesizer pedal also allows a composer like me to get a little bit lazy, and use these synths, whoever programmed these synths in here, I don't know if they were thinking about this, whether composers were going to use it, or just guys that wanted to try it out or use it on stage live, which is kind of where I'm thinking of using this, to be able to play with it live, is something that I'm kind of testing out at the same time. So I'm not sure if I'll be able to do it. It all depends on how I can find these tones. And whenever you go from playing in your at home to the stage, everything changes. So sometimes you can't even hear the effect that you wanted to play. And that's the reason why I don't use anything on stage, is because whenever I use an effect, other than something like a chorus or a whammy pedal, those effects just basically disappeared on me, or morphed into something that I wasn't really happy with. So if this can stay away from doing that, which I think it can, because like I say, this is more like playing a synthesizer keyboard than anything I've experienced in the past. And I've tried all the crazy rolling stuff from the 80s up until today. And so, because they had a guitar that had this crazy, I don't know what even called, like an arm that went from where my strap is on here to the headstock. It was like this arm. Can't remember the name of that machine, but I tried that out, and it was kind of neat. I think Judas Priest used it for some recordings. The Turbo Lover song I knew had that thing on, so it had some pretty cool tones. They had another one which was a guitar that looked like very, very woodsy. It was brown and it had like 2 stripes on it. And I think Jimmy Page might have used that to record a soundtrack for Death Wish. And it had a plug, which was like a computer plug that plugged into your guitar. It wasn't a regular guitar cord. It was like this big honking square thing with a bunch of pins. You plugged that into your guitar. That went into the synthesizer brain, and from there it went to your amplifier. That was way too much for me. Wasn't ready for that at the time, because I think that was also more of a studio setup, and I don't go to the studio a lot, not as much as I play live. I play live way more than I play in studio. So anyways, getting back to this thing, what I'm going to do now is I'm going to roll through a bunch of the other settings to see if we can find something that's inspirational. Because when I came up with that, I've already changed it. So when I came up with this, I just started playing that. So I was obviously going like this, and then I'd switch to the next one, and I'd listen to that. And when I hit this one, I said, I think I can do something with that, and so I started playing with it. So let's roll through the rest of these. This is number 14. That's just an effect. So this is obviously another effect where you don't really want to play chords on. You can, but to me that doesn't sound very good. It's like a single note effect. Let's roll through these. So there's another one. Obviously, by listening to that, I can tell this is something that's going to replace the drummer's snare drum, because you can hear that. That's obviously designed to replace the snare drum. So let's move on. Not interested in replacing the drummer or anything like that. Now this is a little different. I can't make much melody out of that. Just similar to the other ones. Not a big change. Oh, we're at the end of it. So the variation on this 019 on the dual setting is 18. So you got 18 little increments that you can go through for tones. I was actually wondering what was going on when I was going through that, because I thought, oh, I broke it already. But it doesn't. It probably says in the manual, deep in the manual, why it only goes up to a certain number. I guess they just stopped, and so some of the settings even go up to like 8. I think there was one that only went up to 4 with the variation knob. So that's 4 different variations on a certain tone, and that's usually the special effects setting. And because it's the special effects setting, I'll just click something on that, try something on that, leaving where the variation was. This is it. Now, if there was some more boom or oomph to that, that sounds like the John Bonham's effects that they did with the timpani at the beginning of the In the Evening, from In Through the Outdoor, Led Zeppelin album. A lot of people don't know that. They thought it was a synthesizer, but it was actually John playing a timpani with some kind of effect on the microphone. So he could play this up and down sound hitting a timpani. Sounded really cool. But yeah, just a timpani. So that almost duplicates that sound. It's kind of unique. But you don't hear the thing. Anyways, let's go back to dual. And we're going to go to, from 19 in the main window, we're going to go up to 20. So I started at 1 yesterday, and from 1 to 19, I found one thing that was, well, I shouldn't say that. I found one thing that was inspirational to come up with that. Now, if I went through them again today, I don't know. I might find something more inspirational depending on the mood I'm in. So today I've got a little more experience with the machine, with the pedal. So I think I'm finding things that are more interesting to play around with. So that sounds like an effect that the band The Who used for. It's called arpeggio. That's what number 20 is. So I think what that means is it's going to have all those lazy bum notes that you could play, but the synth is playing them. So I could shut this off and play that riff on my guitar without the effect. It'd take me a few minutes to figure out, but you can notice there's certain notes that this effect is putting out. And so I don't find that inspirational. In a way I do. Excuse me, it's very dry here. I find it inspirational to the point where if I'm in a mood, I guess it's not really inspirational. Excuse me. Doggone, there's a lot of horse stuff in here, which is really starting to bother me. I'm allergic to horses, so someone's gonna have to clean this up. There's a horse person is just arriving. Anyways, I'm allergic to horses. And that's what's probably bugging me. So, but anyways, the arpeggio, that's on an arpeggio setting. I'm still on the dual setting. So if I go through the variations of this using the variation knob, we can see what how many variations there are to number 20 arpeggio 1 on the dual setting. So I was going to say that one reminds me of the Who, You Better, You Better, You Bet. This kind of sounds a little bit like that. See, that's something that I wouldn't use. Unless I change the tempo. I might use that if I change the tempo. It might inspire me to come up with something more interesting. But I think something like that would be based on another chord progression that I had in mind, but I would want to use that as, I guess, an addition to maybe solidify the song a little bit more. But on its own, not so much. Same with that. Same with that. So that's it. There's only 9 settings for number 20 on the dual, and I'm using the dual knob because I think it's basically, like I say, duplicating the guitars, so it sounds more like a 12 string. I'm not sure. So moving up to 21, this one's called Saw Lead Octave Up, and I'm still on the dual setting. Let's go through the variations. I should mention too that as soon as I change the memory knob incrementally up or down, the function knob resets itself to 1. So if I was on 13 on the last LED, like number 20, and I switch to 21, it automatically brings the function back down to 1 so that you can scroll through it. It's kind of neat that way because it keeps things nice and organized, which is not the kind of person I am. So it's nice to have a pedal that keeps things organized like that. So this is setting 1. And it's called 21 Saw Lead Octave Up, or Oct Up. So that would be more of a studio kind of thing if you wanted to add certain effects to your recording, your main chord progression. But as far as being inspirational from a composing standpoint, I don't know. I don't see it right now, but it could be the mood I'm in. I noticed, I should mention, as I was going through 1 to 20 or 1 to 19 yesterday, there was some things I stumbled over that I really liked, and I thought, wow, this would be good for this song that I wrote 20 years ago. And sure enough, when I started playing it, it just opened up some more ambient sounds compared to what I had before, which might have been like an acoustic guitar sound, but to feed that through a synthesizer and make it like a super acoustic, it's kind of a unique effect. So it'd be good for that as well. So the chords that I'm playing here, I'm just doing basically pentatonic or blues scales. And then I'm playing, that's a major chord. And this is a sixth from blues. It doesn't sound that great. So it's obviously set up for lead. And that's probably why they call it Saw Lead Oct Up. So I guess that would be a telltale sign there that if they put something like lead in the title, then it's probably not really going to be a chord setting where you'd want to play a chord. It's because it's got it's just because it's got lead. I'm really allergic to something in here. I don't know if I can continue. And anyways, we'll just run through this a little bit more. Well, that sounds good. That's a good chord. That's not too bad for a lead setting. So we're on 16. So as you can see, we're already on 20. So let's see how many there are total. So this one goes up to 30, using the variation knob. And we're only on the dual setting. So there's, like I said, there's other settings like something that's kind of confusing is in the LED where they've got 021, saw, lead, octave up. There's also a lead setting on the pedal itself. So whatever the memory setting says could be also used for the setting, I think. So let's just see what happens if I put it on lead. Go back to dual. Not a big difference. So, but if you go to organ, all these settings on the knob with all those actual names of instruments, they have kind of a common thread throughout. So that's bass guitar. So we'll keep going through dual for a little bit here and see if we can find another thing as something influential per song. This is SQR, which probably means sequencer lead. That's variation 1. Now we'll go, oh, sorry, that starts on, oh, maybe it's leaves on the setting that someone was on before. I'm not sure. So the variation knob doesn't reset down to 0. So we're on number 22, SQR lead, and dual setting. And so sequencer lead. Sequencer I always thought was like the arpeggio, but obviously I'm not right. But definitely a lead setting. See, they kind of do pretty things after you let the note hold. But if you're playing the note repeatedly, you You can sort of hear that pretty part, but if you just let it ring, it comes out a little more clear. Comes out clear. You can get pretty crazy. Like I said, that's not really influential as far as songwriting goes for me at this moment. There's so many. We're on number 8. This is number 9 for the variation. So I've got no guitar volume up on this. If we turn it up, you'll hear a difference. Disappears. Wow, that's freaky. So that's just a little guitar volume. And that's no guitar volume. So something I like about that is this is pure synthesizer. And as you can see, it's not really that slow. The latency's there, but it's not really bad if I go fast. See how it gets a little bit lost? You're hearing a little bit of the acoustic guitar sound because I don't have the Marshall up and running right now. But you can definitely hear the acoustic sound of my guitar, which is really clear compared to the synth sound. See, that's a variation. This is variation number 11, which reminds me of something like an octaver pedal, like just a regular guitar effect. So, which is essentially some of the guitar effect pedals have that characteristic. What? Okay, I think I have to end the show. Just a minute. Whoops.